Yep.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're on another episode of In the Community with Dr. Matt. We're hanging out with Spencer again.
Hey there.
I'm at Master Meats. We came back for a special episode, not just because it's Valentine's Day on a Thursday, but also because we wanted to learn a little bit more. And I had a genuine interest in learning more about food handling. And I get people, not all the time, but sometimes coming into the office saying, hey, I had a stomach bug, stomach flu, whatever it may be. And one of the things that always stuck with me, in first year chiropractic school, we actually had a speaker come to us, right, from public health. And he said, most of the time, it's people's own doing in terms of how they handle their own food, in terms of when they get ill. Right. Restaurants are, on top of things, shops are on top of things, but a lot of the time, people just don't know, right? So I thought we'd do a little educational segment today on learning more. You'd be the perfect guy to talk about it.
For sure.
And go from there. Did you want to go over some things first before we head back to the demo area, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, the main thing a lot of people have misconceptions on is that they take their food home and they feel, it's in the fridge, it's safe. So I'd like to just touch base on all the different levels of risk as far as what type of food it is, what temperature you're storing it at, and then also how, you're washing your hands and not cross-contaminating the different types of food that's out there. So yeah, we'll go through all that together, and then hopefully you guys can learn a few things.
Good. I know, speaking of cross-contamination, when I'm barbecuing, I always have the thermometer out, right? And I think everybody makes fun of me when they're over watching me, right? But hey, it works. And my brother-in-law recently said, hey, we got his own little digital thermometer, right? He said, boy, what an easy way to tell that it's all done. It's turkey, you don't overcook it, so...
It's so true, and you know what? You know it's safe, right?
Yeah.
So you actually can make an accurate reading.
Yeah.
Excuse me, of what you're actually going to be eating. So it's up to temperature, which we have right here as well. We always have it near our oven. It goes through all the different types of food you have, and then what temperatures you should be cooking it to in Fahrenheit, right? So we always go by that, and I put the thermometers over here, but they're normally right here on our table.
Yeah.
And it kind of allows everyone to have the consistency of safeness, right? Okay. So otherwise it's just, you're looking at it and you're guessing. It's an education. And you don't want to guess with people's health. So.
Yeah. Well, I always think, hey, 3 minutes of checking is worth 3 days off work.
Exactly. Measure twice, eat once.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go down to the table. I've got a little prepared setup here, and we'll go through all the different types of food. I have low risk, medium risk, high risk, and we'll just kind of go through that and explain things.
Perfect.
So yeah, let's go. Happy? Video. Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
So here I've kind of laid it out from right to left here. So this board here, I've put
Can you
a
check
bunch
the
of
oven?
different products that are, room temperature safe. You're allowed to store these in a cool, dry place. Lots of people have these in their fruit bowls. You got your lemons, all your fruit here, your grapes. I like my grapes soaked and cold, but that's me. You have your yams, like your root vegetables, your squashes,
Awesome.
and then your breads. These things are totally comfortable on your counter for long periods of time. Most things should be thrown in the fridge at nighttime, but yeah, your fruits and stuff are totally fine on your counter. That's your low risk. So those ones are pretty easy to go by. Just making sure with cross-contamination, you're not going from your raw foods over to these areas, because now you have contaminated them and they become very high risk.
Yeah.
Because they're sitting in room temperature for so long, right? So, yeah, a lot of people have that misconception because they think, oh, it's grapes, but have you washed your hands in between? Exactly. So, yeah, always be aware of what you're touching and what it is you touched last, and what you're going to be touching next. So, after the low risk, we have our medium risk here,
Right.
which this is where most of the errors are made.
Right.
I find a lot of people take these for granted. So your cheeses, your smoked meats, they're not quite cooked fully. You got your deli meats that some people may think, cooked meats, it's fine, and it is for longer than your high risk.
Right.
But as soon as the 3-hour mark hits, you're looking at the bacteria growing at levels that, and because you're not going to recook it, it's already cooked. People eat that and they wonder why they got sick off a ham. And so yeah, always be aware. You should only be taking any of these products in here, like your dairy products, no more than 3 hours. We don't go more than an hour at room temperature here. Because we know they're going to be taking it home and leaving it for an hour as well, right? So yeah, like your samosas, things like that have cooked products in them, they have lots of different things that do grow bacteria. So you need to be aware. Even your broccoli is actually high in protein, so it grows lots and lots of bacteria quickly. Okay. Same with your spinach, and then your kales. So your fresh greens, you really want to keep that refrigerated as much as possible. Yeah. And also your butter. I see lots of homes, they have their butter. I'm guilty of it too. Yeah. To make it nice and soft, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be putting it in your fridge and making sure that overnight you're keeping your butters nice and cold, because they will grow bacteria.
So you would suggest to keep them in the fridge?
Exactly.
And bring out a little bit?
Exactly, yeah. If you're gonna, you have your little butter dish, you can put your little strip of butter in there just for your toast for 3 days or so, and it's not gonna hurt you. Okay. But some people have taken, a whole block, they put it in their container, and it's there for months. Yeah. And then by the time you get to the end, that's a pretty dangerous level, right? Okay. So you want to be careful with that. Yeah. And then the milks too. Like everyone knows, milk spoils, and if you leave it at room temperature, it spoils that much faster. Yeah. Which beyond being possibly sick from, you're also wasting your food, right? Yeah. So you want to be aware of that. Always trying to keep your left.
So I think that was really important what you were mentioning here, is that the deli meats you don't reheat. So you
right.
want to be cognizant of the fact that you eat them cold. So
exactly.
keep them in the fridge.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a big problem I find with people, is they figure because it's cooked, they're just gonna eat it. They'll leave it on their counter for a couple hours, or maybe it's made into a sandwich on a platter at a function, and that's where you're gonna see most of your bacteria growth, because those things are, overlooked, as they say, because they're necessarily deemed cooked and not raw. Whereas with raw products over here, yes, they're high risk. A lot of people are more aware that they're high risk, so they take it into consideration when they're thinking about it. Exactly, it's more obvious. So you have, I have actually two sections here. I have my high risk and then very high risk. Yeah. So your high risk are your whole steaks, your roasts, your stew beef. Right. Things that, yes, they grow bacteria quickly. They are still whole, so they only grow bacteria on the outside. The inside actually doesn't grow a whole lot of bacteria.
There's more control.
Exactly. There's no oxygen for that bacteria to grow. So what's going to happen is you can leave these for about any of these products here, the high risk, I only go up to an hour at room temperature, because after that mark you're guessing. Yeah. So, and you just want to be extra safe. So with the steaks, the beauty is you can cook the bacteria and the roast off the outside, and then now you're eating a safe steak, right? Okay. With your grounds, as opposed to the wholes, you've taken this whole steak, which could have dangerous bacteria on the outside. Yep. You've now ground that bacteria into the inside of the meat.
More surface area.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and there's surface area, oxygen, all in there for the bacteria to grow on the inside. And that's where the very high risk comes in with your eggs, your grounds, your fish, and your chicken. Chicken is very high in protein, so it grows bacteria faster.
So was that it, basically, the high protein content?
Exactly.
Yeah, I like to think exactly. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, the fats in the red meats, they actually deter the bacteria growth. Right. They love high protein. They live off that.
Lower fat.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So chicken's by far the fastest, then fish, and then your red meats. Yeah. Fish is another misconception. Yeah. It actually doesn't have to be cooked as high of a temperature as the other meats. Yeah. So it's around 150 degrees Fahrenheit, as opposed to these, which are more like 170, 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. So when you're storing fish in the fridge at your house, there's always a misconception it should go at the bottom, and all these. Your cooked foods and your raw, like vegetables, should always be at the top. Right. Fish actually should go above your chicken and beef. Right. So because it has a lower cooking temperature, any bacteria that could possibly be contaminated on these will be cooked off at the temperatures that these are cooked at. Okay. So whereas these are lower temperature, if you were to store your fish or your chicken and your beef on top of fish, you're only going to be cooking these up to a certain temperature. There could possibly be this bacteria is still on.
Oh, okay.
Right. So yeah, exactly. There's I had a misconception for the long
bacteria.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, different levels and growth rates. Yeah. So yeah, you always want to make sure your chicken's at the bottom.
Chicken's at the bottom.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the most important in your fridge. Yeah. And I know it gets hard when you're kind of stockpiling in the fridge there. Yeah. But yeah, just always have a spot in your fridge for your raw foods. Yeah. And make sure that they're, in the fridge, not on your door, because every time you open that door, it's going to lower the temperature, or raise the temperature. But yeah, and then I just wanted to go over how to thaw different products properly.
Yeah.
We have a lot of different frozen meat products, and what we recommend is always find something that's backpacked nicely,
Yeah.
and that won't leak into your fridge. And always, if you are cooking a frozen product, make sure it's thawed thoroughly before you cook it, and also can't refreeze.
Oh, yeah.
Because once you start thawing, if you go through the process, the bacteria will start growing on the outside of the meat. So by thawing it properly, that you'll slow that bacteria growth while it thaws.
Okay.
But if you were to refreeze, now you just froze all that bacterial growth on
With
the meat.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and just because you put it in the freezer doesn't mean that bacteria growth stops. It actually just slows down the bacteria growth.
Okay.
And that's why you only get about 6 months to a year in your freezer with the grounds and the meats.
Okay. Good to
So
know.
that's that, yeah. And
Thermometer's good to have. Digital thermometer.
yeah, again, we carry both. We have a standard one here, which because we get throwing them around so much, I go through quite a few of these. So I just buy the standard, they're cheaper, and they work.
Yeah.
And then we have nice, digital ones when we're doing a lot of cooking. We don't have the time to be just sitting there.
Okay.
This one reads it a lot quicker. You just stick it right in. You want to make sure that it's in the middle of your meat.
Not
so
the
that-
edge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the temperature of an inch in.
Yeah.
You're actually going to get into the center of the roast or the center of your steak,
Yeah.
so that every bite is going to be safe.
Okay.
Another thing that I wanted to touch base on was the stuffing. So this is actually a stuffed chicken breast with breading inside, like you would a turkey, or your holiday times.
Yeah.
Always make sure you're getting two readings on stuffed products. You want to get your meat,
Yeah.
and then you want to get the
Deeper?
stuffing.
Okay.
Exactly. You want to know both.
Yeah.
And that way, because the chicken might be cooked, the internal temperature of your stuffing, which has been in contact with the raw food, might not be quite up there yet. So
Okay.
you always want to make sure both are at the 180 degree mark.
Okay.
That's a
good to
big
know.
one, yeah. And a lot of people don't know that. They figure the meat's ready, the stuffing's ready too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Neat. I love it. So
Yeah.
I had a couple questions for you.
Of course.
So when you take it home, what's the with meats like that, like deli meats? What's the eat time usually? What's in the fridge and stored?
Okay, so with our products, like a lot of our Bob's own products, they don't have preservatives. I
Yeah.
always say 3 to 5 days.
Right.
After the 5-day mark, it really gets kind of
50.
it's not as enjoyable. Let's just say
better
it's still
safe.
safe
Yeah.
up to 7 days, but I always tell people less than 5. Eat it in 5 days and you're
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
And with the raw foods, I say 3 days,
Yeah.
especially with your grounds and your chickens.
Yeah.
You can have it roast in your steaks up to about 5 days as well.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it because you want a nice fresh product.
You generally say 3 days.
Exactly, around
Okay.
3 days. Same with your fish, up to 3 days with your fish and your grounds.
Yeah.
And then if you do get deli meats, at your grocery stores, or we do have some with preservatives in them, they are good for up to about 7 to 14 days, they say.
Yeah.
But once you slice them, I find when they sit in the slice,
Exposed more.
exactly,
Yeah.
they get kind of gummied up and they don't taste as nice.
Yeah.
So I always say 5 days. That's kind of the golden rule.
Okay.
And then always be aware of products with dates, right? It is best before February 18th. Doesn't mean you have to throw it out at February 18th.
Yeah.
And what I always try and do is, it may not be the best, freshest milk, but you can maybe cook with it.
Okay.
So you're getting it up to temperature, and if it's a couple days over, that's okay. Like, you can still use it. Just make sure there's no odor,
Yeah.
especially with the milk. The dairy products are easy to tell.
Yeah.
Um,
Because right away you're gonna smell
Exactly,
it.
you're gonna smell it, and do not eat it if it obviously has a smell like that.
Okay.
You won't want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and with your meats, they will oxidize. So if you buy a couple steaks from us, 3 days down the road, you finally get to them.
Yeah.
They've been in the package. They might have a little browning around the outside.
Right.
That's totally fine.
Okay.
Totally safe.
Yep.
It's just oxidization coming from the outside, and usually it's just from the meat touching.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as it doesn't have an odor, I always say it's totally fine to eat.
Okay.
So any of these things, you'll know when it's bad.
Within that 3-day take home.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you recommend shorter for when it's ground?
Right, like with its grounds,
Yeah.
especially with our customers, I tell them,
'Cause you're so
use
fresh.
it that day or the day after.
Yeah.
Otherwise, freeze it when you get it.
Okay.
If you freeze it when you get it, that's the best because you know how fresh it is. So when you're pulling it out, you get that day of thawing time.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue. Is the grounds are probably your most dangerous area, and I don't want to scare everyone into not
Yeah,
eating.
it's good to be aware of it.
It's just good to be aware that
Yeah.
when you're dealing with ground meats, to just act a little quicker on it,
Yeah.
and always make sure you thoroughly cook your ground meats.
Yeah.
You never want to go
Yes.
medium rare on that. I know there's a lot of places out there that do the raw burgers and stuff like that, and that's great, but you are taking a risk.
Okay.
So yeah, especially with the grounds, always thoroughly cook, make sure it's up to temperature. You know, you can eat your steak medium rare, and that's totally fine. I'll do that all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the grounds, always make sure your burgers are fully cooked.
Neat.
So yeah.
So in terms of making it easier for people washing the hands, buying a thermometer maybe.
A thermometer is huge.
Yeah.
A good washing station that's separate. It should actually be separate than your sink that you're using for your dishes and for your food sink that you're going to be preparing some of your vegetables, like I said.
Right.
Because some, bacteria
Yeah.
might get off and go onto your sink, and then you put your grapes in there to wash, and it's all just combined. And because you're not going to be cooking, your vegetables necessarily or your
exactly.
grapes, you're going to eat them right away.
Exposure.
That's where you come into contact.
Okay, so you basically got to Lysol your sink.
Lysol your sink.
Yeah.
And
Or go to the
what I always
washroom.
do is I always do my prepping. So prepping is so key to getting organized. Don't
Yeah.
just try and cook all at once and cut everything and cut it.
Yeah.
Do your prep work, clean your counters, get your vegetables prepped, ready to go. Then take out your raw foods, get that all done, clean it. Take a system to do it. And I know it may seem a little convenient, but when it comes to safety with your
Yeah.
family, I think that comes first, right? So
Well, I mean, I'd rather have 3 days of productivity versus 3 days of being sick.
exactly.
Right? Yeah,
Exactly.
that's an easy win-win for a $10
Exactly.
piece of steak, right?
When with the little ones, like I know you have some, like you
Yeah.
have your daughter and their daughters, and I have
Yeah.
mine, and it's like you never want to see something like that happen.
Of course.
So, although time may not be the best thing for you, it just knowing that you're eating proper food and properly prepared food is really important.
I love it. Is there anything else you want to share?
How about you, Zach? Do you want to share anything, Mr. Cameraman?
Who's cooking the steak?
Who's making the steak?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Typical.
Yeah,
Well,
well-
I just wanted to thank you personally, Matt, for taking the time to do this every time with us and with other businesses. It's really done a great job kind of exposing us as a small business here in town. And yeah, if there's anyone else interested, he's the man to talk to. He makes it so easy for you. And I'm very nervous all the time, but he seems to do it really well to make it easy. So I just wanted to say that anyways.
Thank you.
And I
It's a pleasure
appreciate
to
it.
have you.
No, I'm always happy to have you in here.
Good. Well, I'm glad we can connect on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you're my
Yeah.
date for today.
Perfect. Well, we'll sign off.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll say bye to everybody in Georgetown, Halton Hills there. And we'll catch up with you guys soon.
All right.
Bye for now.
See you later.
Thank you.
Oh.
Make sure you save.